Jumping on a vocal tuning here, there's this belief in church that vocal tuning is either like, and maybe this is in the whole world, but there's this belief that vocal tuning is either magic or in the church world, it's like the devil and should never be used.
Yeah.
For me, from a front of house perspective, relying on that tool for less experienced vocals has been, great to make everything cohesive. But I found with certain vocals that tuning can actually make it worse and that I'll have to turn the tuner off. Can you fix a bad vocal with pitch correction?
No. I'm gonna say no on that one. Pitch correction, uh, like live is, in my opinion, awesome. I am like, especially for, live streaming.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody ever sound great in a live worship setting with a congregation with all the band noise really going for it passionately, sound good on a, straight from the board, like, mix with no tuning help in a live stream off a computer. Because we sing on pitch, it's determined on what we hear, and
Mm,
then we decide, like, where we're gonna place our note for that pitch. What you hear in the room or even in your ears is gonna be completely different than what makes it all the way to the computer for a live stream, every time. So, in in those settings, like, pitch is great, but it is not a fix
mhm.
all because, 1, if you're way off, um, it's just gonna correct the wrong note. Like, it's gonna pull you to an F when you're supposed to be singing an E. So that's one thing, like, you have to be really careful. You have to be singing on pitch because if you're singing, like if you're in the key of C and you're singing a G and you're a little flat or you're a little sharp, it won't correct you to G flat or G sharp if it's the tuning's, like, locked into the key. So you're pretty you'd have to be really off for it to put you to the wrong note. But if you're singing an F or an E or a C or a B, 4 of the 7 notes that you could be singing, you gotta be on. Because if you're off just a little and you're a little bit closer to the half step that's within the key, it'll correct to that, and it'll either correct to that and be wrong, or it'll correct and jump back and forth, which is not great. Um, and then, of course, it's manipulating the tone of your voice no matter what.
Mhm.
If it's a G and you're kind of flat, but it's correcting you, it's still changing the tone of your voice a little bit, and it can sound a little, um, inhuman, even with really, like, the pitch correction speed dialed in really well. So you
Yeah.
gotta sing on no matter what. The pitch correction is really it's really polish,
Yeah.
um, and then it's a saving grace in live streaming, but I'm telling you, you gotta sing with great pitch for the pitch correction to work.
Yeah, I've seen pitch correction work the absolute best. Like, it almost makes the biggest difference when the singer is phenomenal, and then
Yes.
it's that extra step of like, "Whoa, this is locked," versus if someone is, I don't know what the measurement is, but say they're 25% off and it's having to do more work to bring them to center, it starts to sound artificial. Even like you said, even if you have your speed and your tuning references dialed in correctly, it's still the further off you are from that center note, like you said earlier, the further that tuner has to work, and then it starts sounding robotic, artificial, really hard tuned. Do you ever, when you're thinking about singing through tuners, and usually this is a back of mind thing for people, it's not something that they're thinking about all the time, but when you're thinking about singing through tuners, do you ever simplify phrasing or runs or even think about, oh, this note is not in the scale of the song, so I'm going to simplify that, or let know somebody know, those things, or
Yeah,
how deep do you get with that?
I do. So I know, and this getting a little nerdy.
I like that.
So diatonic is a term that means within the key. Non-diatonic means outside of the key. So I know that if I know when I'm singing a non-diatonic note, whether it's in the melody or whether which it's usually not, or whether, um there's a non-diatonic chord being played that I would like to do a run on that accentuates that non-diatonic note in that chord. That's really pretty, but the tuning's not gonna let you do it
Hmm.
unless you tell the person, "Hey, I need you to bypass on the tuning, A flat needs to be bypassed because 'cause I'm singing an A flat on here." And some people might be listening and be like, "What? How am I supposed to know?" If you don't know, um, it's probably not something you have to worry about because it's very rare.
Hmm.
I'm like one of the only people that I know in church settings that has to ask that question because 'cause I'm just the guy that does weird stuff like that. It's not something you have to think about, but if you do runs and if you do, like, gospel runs, like Kim Burrell, Jasmine Sullivan type notes like, "Hey," weird non-diatonic things that make people go, "Ooh," like that, you have to know what notes you're singing because they have to be allowed in the pitch correction or it is gonna sound awful.
To me, it sounds like hell on earth. It's like, what just happened in the room? To speak back to your very first point of like music being so beautiful and this gift, you take that to a completely different place, and it's like, what is that? You know, those two
Yeah.
notes with what is being played on. It's like it is crazy to contrast what's being played on stage.